To understand the world of Wilhelmine von Hillern's On the Cross, you have to first understand the weight of the mountains that surround the village of Oberammergau. This isn't just a backdrop, it is a character in itself. In this secluded Bavarian valley, there is a tradition that has survived for centuries, the Passion play. It was born from a vow, made in 1634 to avert the plague, a commitment to reenact the suffering of Christ as a form of communal prayer and penance. This tradition creates a unique atmosphere where the line between sacred ritual and everyday life is perpetually blurred. Our story begins with Countess Madeleine von Wildenau. She is a woman who has everything the world says should bring contentment, wealth, status, and a high position in society, yet she is profoundly restless. There is a spiritual hunger in her that her aristocratic life cannot satisfy. While traveling through the mountains, she encounters a mysterious, majestic man on a high peak. It is a fleeting moment, but it sparks something inexplicable in her soul, a sense that there is a deeper reality waiting for her beyond the polished surfaces of the court. When Madeleine arrives in Oberammergau, she finds a world that is much more visceral and complicated than the one she left behind. She meets Ludwig Gross, a local artist who acts as a sort of moral anchor for the village. He is a man who has sacrificed his own personal happiness to ensure the village can maintain its traditions and its dignity. Through him, Madeleine begins to see the village not just as a curiosity, but as a community bound by profound duty. She also encounters Josepha Freya, a woman who has been cast out of the community and denied a role in the Passion play because of a social disgrace. Seeing Josepha's despair moves Madeleine in a way that her usual social obligations never could. In an act of genuine compassion, Madeleine offers Josepha a position as her maid. This isn't just a gesture of charity, it is the first step in Madeleine's own transformation. She is moving away from the superficiality of her class and toward a life defined by empathy. As the preparations for the Passion play intensify, the tension between the sacred and the profane begins to tighten. This is where the heart of the novel's drama takes hold. Madeleine finds herself drawn into a deep, intense relationship with Joseph Freya. Joseph is the man chosen to play Jesus in the village's production. Because of his role, the villagers see him through a lens of reverence, but Madeleine sees the man beneath the icon. Their connection is both romantic and intensely spiritual, a blurring of the lines between the actor and the divine. However, their love is not just a matter of the heart, it is a matter of survival, and survival of reputation. It is revealed that Madeleine and Joseph are already secretly married, having performed a religious union in private years before. But Madeleine is caught in a trap of her own making. Her father, the Prince von Frankenberg, is a man who views social standing as the ultimate law. Using her debts and her precarious social position as leverage, he blackmails her into a hollow, pragmatic arrangement. To protect the family name and her own wealth, Madeleine enters a pseudo-marriage with the Duke of Metten-Barnheim. She effectively abandons Joseph to live a life of high society duty and deception. The years that follow are a long, slow descent into what might be described as a spiritual exile. Madeleine lives a double life, a performance of a life. She holds her position at court. She maintains the outward appearance of a noblewoman, but she is fundamentally hollow. The weight of her lies is immense, and the cost of her choice becomes devastating when she suffers the loss of an illegitimate child, a direct consequence of the fractured life she has built. She realizes, too late, that her pursuit of social liberty and the preservation of her status was actually a prison. She has traded her soul for a mask. While Madeleine is drowning in the complexities of high society, Joseph Freya's life takes a different kind of path. He remains in the village, living in poverty and social disgrace because of his connection to Madeleine. But as the years pass, his suffering begins to take on a different quality. He becomes a figure of saintly endurance. The physical and emotional toll of his role in the play, combined with his isolation, begins to mirror the very suffering he portrays on stage. He is no longer just an actor. He has become a man who has been purified by his own endurance. The climax of the story arrives when the masks finally shatter. A repentant and desperate Madeleine, broken by her hollow existence, rushes back to Oberammergau. She comes seeking the truth, even if it destroys her. She arrives during a performance of the Passion play, and it is in this moment that the theatrical and the real world collide. During the scene of the crucifixion, the lines between the play and reality completely collapse. Joseph, playing the role of Christ, collapses on the cross. In a moment of profound courage, Madeleine rushes onto the stage. She doesn't care about the scandal, the Duke, or her father's wrath. She publicly renounces her title and her status, declaring herself Joseph's wife. In that moment, she chooses the truth of her heart over the performance of her social role. She trades her crown for a life of reality. The story concludes not with a grand social triumph, but with a quiet, authentic peace. The final years of their lives are spent in the village, living a life of humble devotion. Joseph eventually dies peacefully while on the cross during a final performance, having fully embodied the spirit of his role, not as an actor, but as a man who has found peace through a kind of secular martyrdom. Madeleine remains in the village as a widow, finding the spiritual essence she had been searching for since her youth, not in the heights of the mountains or the halls of the palace, but in the simplicity and truth of a life lived without masks. When we look at the themes in On the Cross, there is a recurring tension between what Hillern calls living faith and dead religion. The Passion Play is a living, breathing thing for the villagers. It is a way of engaging with the divine through suffering and community. In contrast, the social rituals of the aristocracy, the marriages of convenience, the maintenance of status, the rigid hierarchies, are presented as a form of dead religion. They are rituals that have lost their soul, serving only to preserve a hollow order. Madeleine's journey is essentially a struggle between social performance and essential truth. Throughout the book, she is constantly performing. She performs the role of the dutiful daughter, the noblewoman, the court official. The tragedy of her life is that she mistakes the performance for the reality. It is only when she loses everything, her status, her reputation, her wealth, that she is able to actually begin living. There is also a fascinating concept of martyrdom applied here, but it isn't just religious. Hillern explores a kind of secular martyrdom. Joseph Freya's life, characterized by poverty and social disgrace, is presented as a form of spiritual purification. The book suggests that the stripping away of worldly comforts and the acceptance of social shame can be a way of reaching a deeper, more authentic state of being. We also see how the natural world reflects this internal struggle. The mountain peaks, the storms, and the fires aren't just scenery, they mirror the characters' souls. The heights represent the ideal, the lofty, sometimes unreachable spiritual aspirations, while the valleys and the messy, difficult realities of the village represent the real. Madeleine's life is a constant movement between these two poles, trying to find a way to bridge the gap between the person she is supposed to be and the person her soul demands she become. In the end, On the Cross is a story about the cost of truth. It asks us what we are willing to sacrifice to be authentic. For Madeleine, the price was everything she thought she wanted, but what she gained was the only thing that actually mattered, a sense of peace. It's a reminder that sometimes, to find ourselves, we have to be willing to let go of the roles we've spent our whole lives playing.